First of all, everybody, thanks for joining. This is Food Talks. My name is Mustafa Koida. I'll be the host. I'm the founder and CEO of Koida Organic Milk. This is our third series, actually. On June 1st, we talked about what's the new normal for consumers. On June 8th, we talked about work redefined. Last week's talk was really interesting about whether you had to unfortunately let go of people, hire people, how do you manage this new environment as well. And today we're going to talk about, or the title is Original Marketing Plan Scrap. So it's going to be focused on marketing, which has certainly been affected during these times. We've got a lot of great speakers on the panel. I'll just introduce them very quickly. Bilal, who's the founder and CEO of B&B, which is a conglomerate that manufactures all kinds of different foods, chocolates, Mediterranean sweets, and healthy foods. He also owns brands like Freaking Healthy, and he also produces for brands like Fade Fit Kids. And he recently landed a contract at Walmart in the US. So he's been doing a great job in expanding, not just here, but also internationally. Olivia is also joined, and she's a very inspiring entrepreneur who was in fact inspired by her French grandfather and her Nordic roots. She founded Hello Chef, which is one of the region's fastest growing home delivery and prep meals company. I'll say this over and over again, I've used them and they've made a bad chef like me even look good in the kitchen. Dinesh Pagrani is the director and third generation owner at one of the oldest retail chains in the country, Troy Trumps. They also do distribution, by the way. And he started his career at the bottom of the food chain per se, and really worked his way up. And he's seen all facets of the business. So I think I'm very excited to have him on the webinar. Chef Izu unfortunately could not make it on this webinar. We apologize. He got called into a government meeting just right now. So he may join in just a little bit later, and we'll keep you posted on that. We always miss his passionate style and whatnot. So look, I think a couple of things that are interesting about the panel is we got, different arrays of business. We've got small to medium to large. We're covering all sides of the food, experience. We've got FMCG brands, manufacturing, retail, as well as home delivery. And I'm really happy to have you guys on the panel. A couple guidelines before we get started. Let's keep all our answers to around a minute and a half. If you have any stats, that's always very good to talk about. If you want to debate a point, feel free to debate. We always have some healthy debate going back and forth or banter. Just raise your hand. And please mute your mics when other people are talking. In terms of the audience, you'll see all of us. Your video and audio will be muted. And you can feel free to ask as many questions as you want, either through the chat or the Q&A. It's actually a little bit easier to manage. But feel free to ask questions throughout, and then I'll manage the questions and ask our panelists. So, all right, are you guys ready for round 3? All right, cool. So listen, I think marketing has been affected in a huge way, especially since COVID took place, and now we're kind of getting out of COVID as things are opening up, at least here in the region, and at sort of different paces in different countries around the region as well. And there are two sort of schools of thought during these tough times. You either cut costs, right, and limit budgets, or you start increasing, whether it's digital spend or not. And I kind of want to know which one sort of has worked best for you, and everyone's sort of in a different situation. So Bilal, I'm gonna open it up to you. What's been going on with your marketing budget? Have you been increasing, decreasing, and what's your train of thought on it?
So definitely we didn't cut it down to zero, right? When all this started, we realized that we have new products being launched in the market, and then we have our mainstream products that have already been there. And also we have the healthy foods products versus the confectionery. So obviously all marketing on confectionery was cut first. And in terms of healthy foods, we focused completely on digital. So we worked mainly on all the marketing involving e-commerce and all the sites that had an e-commerce platform versus the in-store marketing, because traffic in stores decreased in the first month. So that was our quick approach. I think more into, like for us, that what was more interesting was how we completely cut down costs in terms of our internal marketing department at BNB. Mainly because traditionally in marketing, I think this is something that many people will not agree on, but traditionally there's someone who creates a strategy, someone who writes content, and then someone who executes. And what we did was we hired only one person to do all that. And finding someone who can create content, is good with graphic design and videography, and writes the strategy was the difficult part. So maybe we can talk about.
Yeah, so that's interesting, Bilal. What you said is you were spending less in store and more on digital. I'd love to hear from Dinesh, who's a store guy, right? So what is your thought process on that? Obviously, you're a big retailer, you're all over the country. Have you seen that trend as well? Have you seen people spending less in store and shifting online? And what are your thoughts on that? Being a retailer yourself.
Yeah, so we have seen our online business has surged, as a result of the pandemic, and we do anticipate a lot of our shoppers have moved offline to in essence online. I think for us, our marketing trends are really going to be sort of more economically driven in one sense. Now, if we go back to the last couple of years, where the market was also under a lot of sensitivity economically as well. In our line business, we saw a lot the promo intensity really kind of increase, and the number of promotions we were doing in our stores. We in essence have two facets of stores in terms of premium and sort of less premium stores. And we never used to do much promotions in our higher premium stores. But we are doing, over the last couple of years, we have been doing a lot more promotions. And we are anticipating now going forwards in the future that, it's really important to kind of keep that price competitiveness and to really kind of, showcase that to our consumers. So I would say for us, it's not necessarily just about, in-store or out-of-store. It's mainly just the brand image all across. I previously mentioned in the initial webinars that we are going to be pushing and doing a lot more online in the next couple of months in terms of an upgrade and revamp of our website, enhanced sort of capability, enhanced usability. But I think that was something that was always going to be in the pipeline.
Yeah, but as a retailer, it's great to hear what you guys are doing in terms of your marketing. But as a retailer, when you see other brands coming into your stores, do you feel like there is a need as much to promo their items? Where is the opportunity to do in-store marketing now? How has that changed, basically, I guess?
Of course, right? Even with, whether it's our partners and suppliers we work with, or whether it's what we do ourselves. We can't even do, for example, food tasting and sampling anymore, which was quite an important pivotal activity that especially emerging brands used to do. So there's definitely, so for example, for a lot of our own brands, we've been doing a lot more on social media in terms of recipes, in terms of really kind of showcasing certain brands. And I think, a bit like what Bilal said, certain brands are definitely gonna have to be pushing that angle a lot more about, the digital market space and really communicating with the consumers online. Because I think even when somebody's going into the store now, it's even going to be more difficult for a new product to be called out to them than ever before, because people are probably just rushing out.
Have you noticed, I think what you said earlier is you've seen a lot more promos being done during this period as well.
No, there's not been a lot more promos being done because in essence, with the sort of supply chain challenges,
stuff,
it's very hard to really sort of do a promo and do it right. Now that's kind of, our promotion sort of calendar's kind of gone back to normal in terms of, we do our Super Saver Tuesdays, which are 2 for 1 on a lot of products. So that's all kind of coming back into fruition now. But we are kind of anticipating that we're going to have to keep a solid momentum going in promotions.
Okay. And so, no, thanks for that. Shifting over to you, Olivia, you've seen an explosion in your business over the last month or two. I'm going to assume that your marketing budgets may have increased, but I'm just curious, have you changed around your marketing budget? Have you decreased any portions of it, increased other portions of it? What's going on with your marketing right now?
Yeah, so there's multiple things, but for sure, like at the beginning, you kind of weren't too sure what was happening. So we scrapped our original budget and added a sort of like a medium aggressive budget. So we kind of went for like a little addition to the budget, 10-15%, and then we realized, okay, this is going to be lasting for longer as you know, we saw the full-on lockdown happen. So we made a much more aggressive, maybe 20-30% of the original plan. And so at the moment, we're kind of juggling between those two medium and more aggressive plans, you know, kind of seeing what the situation is out there and how that sort of obviously gives us return on the investment on the buck that we spend. We also have been adding more collaborations just because there's been an ask. So we are getting, phones are ringing, you know, quite regularly regarding, you know, us promoting somebody's brand, a particular product. And we find those extremely successful. We enjoy doing them with brands that kind of match our brand identity that fits.
Could you give me like an example of a collab that you've done that's been successful?
So there's a great collab coming on very soon, which is with Munchbox, for instance, that goes well with our brand as well. Similar profile customer. There's something coming up with Barilla. So there's a couple of things that are cooking.
Okay, all right, cool. And so I'm curious, how would you say, you know, a lot of people who their marketing budgets have been changed around completely. How would you say you break out your marketing budget? If you had 100%, you know, or 1 dirham for the next 6 months, how would you break that out? What percentage is digital spend? What percentage is promos? What percentage is this? If you were to do a high level, how would you break it down? I know it's different for everyone, so I want to ask everyone too.
So from my side, we're obviously completely B2C, direct to consumers, only online, no brick and mortar. So typically more or less all our spend is digital, is online, is on social. So there's no real change there in terms of how we promote and how we you know.
Okay.
Budget.
And have you been using any influencer marketing? I mean, that's another aspect of digital.
So for us, we've been working with some really great individual small micro influencers, and that's been a tactic we've been doing. Because it talks to our brand. You know, it's obviously leaner than working with some of the big guys out there as well.
Okay, and what would you say are kind of your top 3 tips on picking a good influencer? Do you have any, you know, strategies around that?
Yeah, of course, we need to find somebody who has the kind of audience that we are trying to reach or want to expand to, if that's the case. So that's really important. So there's a bit of diligence done there from the marketing team. And then it just needs to be somebody who's you know, we've got a nice relationship and the sort of rules of the game apply to both and both are happy. It needs to be a nice win-win for both. We're not a big corporate. We can't, you know, like, it needs to be like a nice sort of mix of personalities, mix of audiences. Yeah, so to say this, and we do have rules and things about it, but it's still quite relaxed.
Oh, thanks for that. Bilal, how would you say your marketing budget has changed? You know, if you were to take a high-level view at 1 dirham, how would that sort of be broken out? And I'd also love to hear a little bit about influencer marketing, since that's a big thing right now as well.
So look, let's say we had 100 dirhams, okay, to spend. Today, 2020 would look more like 50 dirhams. Okay, we've slashed our marketing budget as a total, but that's kind of expected to be conservative with what's happening. And then you take that 50, and I would say pretty much 40 is going all on digital spend, and the 10 would be I'd split it between the first quarter of the year and the last quarter of this year, because we do expect by the last quarter of this year, you know, in-store marketing to pick up, sampling to start again. And in the meantime, I think for the future, this has affected us. We've done our, we've already agreed that for 2021 moving forward, the way we would be budgeting for marketing would be completely different than the past. So we would pay much more attention to, the let's say the digital world, whereas before we were so focused on in-store marketing. But this doesn't necessarily mean that it's only e-commerce. Somehow today, when you go to Choy Trans or Carrefour or Spinneys, or brand awareness is, everyone is sitting on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok nowadays. So it's kind of navigating which one of these will create the biggest brand awareness that has become, for companies like ours who are doing mainly traditional marketing, has become the challenge, right? Particularly in newcomers like TikTok. It doesn't work for everyone, but that's why.
So tell me a little bit more about your, of your 50 fills, you're spending 40 fills now on digital. I know for a fact, for example, we've wiped out tastings and sampling out of our budget. Our digital has gone up dramatically. And, we have a mix between a little bit of influencers and a lot on, adverts and, targeted sponsor ads and pushing things kind of to online sales so we can see very quick conversions. How are you breaking up your 40 fills or your digital? Kind of give me an idea of where is that going?
So again, because we have such a large product range, I would say in terms of confectionery, the biggest market for us is traditional trade. Traditional trade means your average retailer on the road who sells chocolate and confectionery. And for those, we work with influencers. Particularly, we're very active in Saudi, where we work with, influencers who have, and not micro influencers, but influencers who have millions of followers that have gotten them organically. They're very expensive, but we've seen great results, particularly with last Eid. So in Saudi, where there was a complete lockdown, we've seen, our clients, who work with us, we've seen their marketing spend on those influencers achieve excellent results compared to last year, or very close to last year's results in revenues. If we look at modern trade, where we, let's say, sell our Freaking Healthy brand, for example, in that sense, that's where the marketing budget of tasting and sampling, and we used to take part in Ripe Market and yoga festivals and so on. Those have been put on hold, mainly because those don't exist at the moment, but possibly we would reduce our visibility there, and we would focus more on all the e-commerce platforms we work with, on promoting our social media with them and boosting and so on.
And what would you say in terms of the influencers? What are kind of your rules of thumb when your marketing department is trying to find a good influencer? What are the top things that you look for?
Listen, I agree with Olivia. At the end of the day, it's they have to be relevant to the field, right? So for Freaking Healthy, we're looking for the more of a lifestyle, so fitness lifestyle. Any influencer who plays in that space, whether it's yoga or gym, but again, in confectionery, it's completely different. I can't give you one for all, but I can tell you that the most important thing is that they are people who get the message across effectively. They have organic following. We don't go, there's a lot of people buying influencers and so on, buying followers and so on. So we don't go for that. But it's not just about influencers nowadays, right? It's about the content you create. And people aren't interested to go on Instagram and just take a look at one product. It's all about indirect marketing nowadays. Again, this is something I guess our marketing department would be much better at explaining. But what I know is that content creation for our limited attention span nowadays, we're all competing for that 5 seconds that everyone can give.
Yeah.
It's become much more competitive than before. And everyone, if I can give you one fact that we've noticed during these times is that we supply 2,000 retailers with confectionery, and the 2,000 retailers who most of them never had e-commerce platforms. The 2,000 retailers now have their own e-commerce platforms, and everyone is much more active on social media. So it's a very crowded space, and how you stay relevant, how you stay, differentiate yourself from the rest. I think that's where that's the.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think, in our experiences, we've done about, let's say, 10 campaigns in the last 6 months, and we found that you have to have a balance of the right content, your timing has to be right, and you have to have the right pipeline. And we've had campaigns where we had bad content, our timing and our pipeline was great, and the whole thing fails. You have to kind of balance those three variables, and that's sort of the art, So you can have great content, you can have the great timing, but if no one's looking at it, it's pointless. And we found actually that some of the mainstream influencers give us the pipe, they give us that pipeline. They have the 150,000 or 1 million followers that allows us to get the channel, to get.
I have a question for you though. Do you believe in in-house marketing, or do you think that it's more economical to outsource it or more effective?
I think it depends on the stage of your business. That's a great question. By the way, you should be the moderator now, Bill. I like that. But that's a great question. I think now it depends on the stage of your business. When you're early stage, or at least when we were early stage, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have the money, right? So we had to do everything in-house. Either I was creating it and doing it on my own. As we got bigger, we sort of did a hybrid level where we hired consultants, and we still did some of it, but we outsourced a little bit to a freelancer or consultant. Then as we got bigger, then we started hiring more senior marketing people and started getting agencies because we could afford it. And, doing it all in-house is not scalable as you grow, So I think to answer your question, it depends on what stage of your business you're in and how much money you have to go after that kind of market. Does that make sense?
Funny you say that, because we still do it in-house.
Yeah, I think there are different trains of thought, but we also still do a lot of it in-house because we like to control the message.
Let me also add something here. When we initially started off our social media channel, we used to do it in-house. Then we sort of saw merit in outsourcing it to get an enhanced level of quality, which we did get, but I don't think it went beyond and above our expectations. So we've now actually started taking back control of our social media. And ironically, I didn't even know up until about a month ago that we were doing it ourselves, just because I created the content on the same sort of level. So I think, it can be done. And, for us now, we're doing it at a cheaper price, which is, very kind of key in terms of looking at utility of your marketing spends, really making your dirham stretch.
So Dinesh, you're currently doing it in-house. Is that what you're saying?
All our social media content.
Okay. So
I would second Dinesh, because we've done exactly the same as Dinesh. So we kind of started off a little bit ourselves, then we gave it to somebody outside to do, and it got to a certain point. We didn't have the time, when we started doing everything, so we didn't have the time to keep on looking at social media and do posts and take pictures. And then when we started bringing it in-house, that's when we saw the biggest difference in our business.
Yeah. So one thing I'll add on is that we've outsourced, but there are different components of marketing, right? So like the creative, right, and the messaging, we keep the creative ideas and the messaging, we keep that in-house, okay? The graphic design, which is like a tactical thing based on what your creative is, we have a freelancer for that. And then the targeted marketing, like, the Google ads and kind of the technical side of how you target certain customers, we've outsourced that because we just don't have that competency in-house. So we've kept some of the close creative ideas and strategic direction in-house, but I'd say the more tactical aspects have been outsourced. So that's what's worked for us.
So Koita, look, let me add a few things that in terms of traditional marketing or in-house marketing, in-store marketing that we've noticed too. So if you look at, because not all in-store marketing was dead during this time, right? If we look at fruits and veg, even though fruits and veg was, and Dinesh, I'd love to hear your point of view on this, but I know that a lot of them have started packaging the bananas and the apples into plastic bags because people were afraid to touch them with their hand. And for us, for example, because we're in the bakery section of most retailers, you know, I mentioned this before, we used to sell everything in bulk. And you know, that business, it's traditionally how baklava was sold. And today, most of our sales is just pre-packed. Obviously, people don't feel, you know, like they, and that's all expenses. And you know, quickly adapting to this, that was all part of our marketing budget that it's, you know, we don't talk about much, let's say. So that's something, how trends have changed. I've seen a lot of the distribution houses here that have moved online, created their e-commerce space. They were traditionally selling to the HoReCa sector. You know, a box of croissants of, you know, 100 frozen croissants, and now they want to move into direct B2C. And you know, they started marketing these to the consumer, except the packs themselves didn't make sense because, you know, the pack size and everything. So marketing, we're only focusing on the digital front, but there's a big play that was happening on, you know, how you package your product to make sense for this pandemic, but also the pack size and, you know, how do you talk to the consumer? You're getting more for less and so on.
So I think what you're leading on to is that there's been a shift to more, let's call it COVID-friendly packaging or COVID-friendly you know, unit sizes. Have you noticed that, Dinesh, across some of your lines coming in? Have you seen people change, as Bilal said, or have you seen any differences?
So, you know, I mean, there were brands before, like, I honestly saying no. I'm going to be, because firstly, within the produce space, you've already had a lot of volatility of supply to begin with, locally, internationally. You know, at one point there were no, very, very early on, there were no bananas even in sale. And then of course, when everyone's making banana bread, they were outbuying whatever bananas they could get. There were brands like, you know, Dole, banana specifically, which have always kind of been packaged. I can imagine why people are likely to pick that up. But even if you think about it, I don't think it really weans away with any sort of contamination, whether you're picking up.
So you haven't seen a change? Because look, when I go into retail stores, honestly, I find it a big pain. I got to put on these plastic gloves, right? Then I got to pick up the plastic bag, which I can never, with my plastic gloves, open up for some reason. It's like so much harder right now.
Yeah.
And if I had a pre-packaged, you know, pack of 4 bananas or 5 apples, I would gladly pick it up, you know. So I'm just curious, you know, if that's maybe an opportunity, you know, this, you know, COVID-friendly packaging for businesses, you know, both this on the supply side and the retail side.
So I mean, even if you look in the West, I would say the pre-pack is definitely a lot more present, where you don't see so much of a loose offering. I would just say it's really in terms of logistically how the produce is kind of brought into the country.
Okay.
That how it's more in the loose format than the packaged format.
Okay, Dinesh, sorry to cut you off. I have a question from one of the viewers. I thought, you know, all of us could maybe address it. When do you think, they ask, when do you think we can go back to in-store sampling? You know, any insight into that or any guesses? As Bilal said, in sampling is a huge aspect for new brands.
I mean, look, I mean, I think when it becomes legal, right? It's right now it's not legal, and it's probably not safe, and people wouldn't feel comfortable. You know, Mustafa, Bilal, and I don't know if you've been around to Gulf food in the past. You know, you see a bowl of nuts or something, and people are just putting their hands in it. And then, you know, somebody else.
I never touch those nuts, by the way, ever.
They're definitely a lot more filthier than the nuts in the bars. But look, I mean, I think right now, I think half of it's really when it becomes acceptable by the authorities. And the second is, you know, right now it's an expensive thing to go on sampling drives, you know, for, you know, retailers.
But if you were to make a guess, best guess, when do you think it'll be back in the retail space?
maybe.
In number of months.
Look, I think really kind of we all kind of have to go back to a different kind of mindset. Right now, as soon as you kind of touch and open a door, you sanitize your hands. If you're in a lift, right, get out of it, you sanitize your hands. So I think.
So, Dins, you think 3 months, 6 months?
I think when the mind shift changes, I don't know how long.
I mean, I'm more optimistic. Look, I think that by October, I think last quarter of this year, you're already seeing, look, go outside now and you're already seeing people feeling comfortable to sit in restaurants, go to the beach, etc. So to go to a supermarket and do sampling, I think it's not about when will that happen, it's how that will happen, right?
Yeah.
Or the presentation of the person doing the sampling, the plate they put it in was, I'd say it was average, and now maybe that would change. But in-house sampling will come back, and I think as long as we're going on the trajectory we're on now, I think probably last quarter of this year we'll start seeing some norms coming back.
Yeah. No, I also think in sampling there's a great opportunity, right? Because the how in sampling, for example, we have 200 ml packs, now it's a lot more expensive than pouring in, a little sip every time, but maybe we could sample with the packs, or Bilal, if you have a cookie that's pre-packaged and,
But this comes to what Bilal's been telling us about the sizes of the products. Because for instance, we do a lot of sampling and we've done some amazing sampling with Koita, for instance, and people love it. But for sure, it's that 200 ml that you have to put in the box by minimum.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a retail size, then it's become a logistical nightmare.
That's a great example. That's a great example, by the way. All right, hey, Chef Izu, glad to have you back. Thanks for making it a little late, by the way, but that's okay. We're talking about our marketing strategies and how they've been redefined. And I'm just curious. I'll bring you back into the conversation, but how I know F&B in the fine dining sector. You guys have a marketing budget. You have a PR agency. Have your budgets gone up or down? Have you had to change or shift how you spend your marketing budget in the last, couple months and going forward?
I mean, to be honest, we don't have that money in the pot anymore to spend it, because for the last few months it has been very difficult, especially just paying the salary. So to have money, we have to think outside the box for marketing strategy, because the days of spending quite a lot of money to bring people in, because we work with a lot of influencers, a lot of people that we invite and all that. It's more of a PR than marketing, because when you get to a certain level of restaurant, you can't just market, you have to PR. It's all about getting the right people in the door, getting the right vibe in the restaurant. So, but in terms of marketing, we don't have much of a marketing budget, because it's just that you're basically in the mode of just keeping the doors open, basically.
Yeah. And I'm curious, it sounds like you have a limited marketing spend, and what you're saying is most of it goes to PR. What's worked for you the most, in terms of if you're an F&B, a restaurant, viewing this webinar, what could you recommend to them if they want to get traffic back into the door? What's worked for you guys?
To be honest, I mean, I always say I'm a traditionalist in the sense of go back to your product, make sure your product is working, your offering is good, and it's word of mouth. Basically, when someone sits on in your seat, that is your PR, that is your marketing. That one person that sits in your table, or two people, whoever, how many they are, that is your focus to market your product, because they're gonna go out and recommend you. And that's for me, that's the oldest way of marketing something, because if someone's tasted it and tried it, of course they're gonna recommend it. And nowadays with social media, it's a way to communicate with a lot of people, because when someone comes and tries a food they like, of course they're happy to just post it in their Instagram page, which vibrates everywhere else. So,
Chef Izu, can I ask you a question? because during this time, I noticed that a lot of restaurants kept posting about how their restaurants have become safe to eat in, or if they were doing delivery, how they were sanitizing their kitchen and so on. Do you think that's effective? Do you think consumers, when they see that, they'll feel like the restaurant is safe to get to, or do you think it was, it's usual?
I mean, to be honest, that's a great question. I mean, we haven't went down that line of showing sanitizers and showing how clean the restaurant is, because I think that's a basic necessity of a restaurant to be that clean. The COVID should not change the high standard of cleanliness that you imply in your outlet. So for me, it's one thing that it should be already there, and for you to highlight it, it's maybe saying something. It's saying that it wasn't there at the beginning, and now you're kind of like using it as a PR. And now I see people having the branding on the mask and all that. Everyone has their own kind of direction of marketing. I always say less is more. I tend to run away from cheesy marketing, because I do feel you've got to be natural. So, and for me, I have always stopped anything to do with sanitization, making the place clean and all that, because I don't think your patrons are going out to eat on the floor. They know your outlet is clean because they've been there. So for you to highlight it is maybe, I don't know, maybe you're trying to jump on the bandwagon of something. I'm one of these guys. Just be who you are. Who you are today is who you are tomorrow, and it should be who you are. As a principle, you should do that anyway. So,
are you alluding, Chef? Are you alluding to the fact that highlighting that you're in an aseptic, clean environment may be counterproductive, because it's going to bring up questions that, hey, was it not,
I think so.
was it not clean before, basically?
I think when people go out to eat, they want an experience. They don't want to show the sanitization of the place. I mean, they expect that. That's not a require. That's a must. It's a must for your establishment to have that high hygiene. You got people's lives in your hands. I've always lived with that principle. I mean, when I put my chef whites on or get into the kitchen, the highest hygiene has to be applied, because I have people's safety in my hands, and I've always lived that as a philosophy. So even today, it shouldn't change. It shouldn't change who you are. Yes, so you're more aware of it. So
what is I'm just curious, what about the rest of the panelists? I mean, have you addressed, I guess Chef Izzo is saying, hey, we don't need to hit the hygiene issue head on. Have you guys had to integrate the hygiene issue within your marketing messaging at all? I mean, maybe Olivia, you can talk to that because you're very B2C. Have you had to address hygiene in your market messaging, and how have you done it, if any?
So I'm completely aligned with Chef Izzo. So for us, it's a fundamental of the business without COVID or with COVID. So we have obviously added communications to our customers, but it has more to do with, because we're like a business that people rely on. They rely on their box coming every week. So our communication has been more to the fact to just put them at ease that we are operational, roads are clear, there might be some delays, if Abu Dhabi has closures or whatnot. So, but it's really not been about specifics about, okay, so now everybody's got masks, now everybody's wearing gloves, because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be clean, and we do all the checks like all companies with hygiene in terms of like making sure temperatures, and we did a lot of safeguarding for operations to start. So we have some questions that come from customers, but it's been very little, like much less than expected. There's like a one-off question here and there, like do people wear masks? Do you get garlic from China? Do you, like there's a couple of things that people have asked, but we don't feel like it's needed to be addressed on the big scheme, because it's just not a nice label to have in terms of like trying to shout out your hygiene.
Yeah, it's interesting. As an FMCG brand, we haven't addressed it head on either. However, we've been a bit subtle, so we have been planting some seeds in the messaging thing that, long life milk goes through a UHT process, kills off all the bacteria. We've talked about aseptic packaging. how long life milk keeps in all the nutrients and whatnot. So we've been subtle with it, but we haven't been too head on about it. I'm curious, Bilal and Dinesh, how have you guys addressed, the hygiene issue in your businesses?
Look,
Who wants to go first?
I'll do it quickly. As much as I agree with Chef Izu, but again, from sector to sector, it's different, right? So, so as a restaurant, yes, this is something you would expect, but there are a lot of people who have become paranoid about. I know a lot who have become paranoid about going to the stores to shop, which is why e-commerce has gone up. It's part of why e-commerce has gone up. So you have to kind of address this, whether directly in the sense of, like I said earlier, how you package stuff and the claims you put on stuff, or whether you post, example, you're a retailer who, like Choi Trams, where you're telling someone, look, we have put people on the door with thermometers and you get gloves and so on. Because some people do want to hear that, even though the rest of us don't. We know if our retailer is safe to go to or not, but some people needed to hear that. So I think ignoring it depends on the sector. But I think for us, for example, in terms of our consumer goods, for sure we communicated, some things, and we a lot of our time was spent on the packaging.
So, for example, what were the things that you communicated? What were like the top 3 things you would say?
For a start, let's look at before hygiene. We talk about, for our healthy brands, we talk about, we'd be louder on the claims, because people changed their eating habits and people wanted to build up their immunity, and they were looking at products that were actually healthy. So that was, from a marketing perspective, that was something we focused on. In terms of the factory where these products are made, we talked a little bit about that. And mainly, one good example I can give you is, during during Ramadan, we sell a lot of, in the confectionery side, we sell a lot of fresh fried sweets that are traditionally eaten only in Ramadan. These are bulk, and you buy them by the kilo. And we package them in Tupperwares and seal them and everything. And even though the sales would never amount to the bulk sales, but had we not done that, we'd be on 0 sales. So we had to do that because there was no way that people would go in and buy the way they used to. Plus, it was illegal at the time.
Okay. Dinesh, in terms of your marketing strategy, again, I know you've implemented things for COVID, but I don't want to focus on the implementation. I want to talk about the marketing. Have you addressed through your market messaging or your, through social media or whatever avenue, have you talked about COVID and, the hygiene side of it?
Not in a way that's self-promoting. It's, if we've done any communication, it's mainly from a sort of safety guideline type point of view of, having to come in wearing masks and gloves, because, well, actually, believe it or not, some people, we give out gloves because a lot of people don't come in with gloves or have gloves. I understand that, but some people don't even walk in wearing a mask at times, believe it or not. So we give out, those masks as well to our consumers for free. I think what's more important than anything else is that people, it can't be communicated. People need to feel that comfort naturally. And I think when they come to us, they can see there's a guy there who's sanitizing the trolley handles. There's gloves given out. There's temperature checks being done. We always kind of adhere to, even internally, we have an internal audit. We have a QHSE team who does audits on all our stores independently on hygiene and health and safety measures. It's nothing that we talk about, but it's something that everyone kind of does behind the scenes. So we've always kind of maintained those sort of high standards. And again, like what Izu says, we've got people's lives in our hands. I don't want to sell where there's a shoddy piece of meat or anything, in the bakery that isn't up to standard. That will completely tarnish. That will be tarnishing our brand. So it's more for us is just kind of sustaining and keeping those high standards going, and that itself should be an implicit marketing message.
Yeah. Okay, great. Hey, we got a question in from Yesu. He has a question for Bilal, yourself, and Koita. He's saying, looking at the overall macroeconomic scenario with people losing their jobs and the impact of consumer buying power, how do you think premium minimalism will be effective? Will it take a backseat? Are people going to be looking more for value? I'll take a stab at this first. I think the answer depends when you talk about premium goods. I think what I've seen is if you're looking at a sports car, or jewelry from the premium sense, certainly people are going to take a backseat. Those type of expenditures, I think, are going to come down across the board, or people are going to think twice. However, what we've seen in our sales in a healthy eating perspective is we do have a premium milk brand, but we also offer a different kind of value. So we are organic. We add vitamin D. We have aseptic packaging. So people are willing to upgrade to let's say, a cleaner milk solution, and something that impacts their immune system is something they're willing to spend more for. So we've seen an increase in sales, for a number of reasons. So I think your answer depends. It certainly will affect different categories, even within food, differently. But Bilal, you have a conglomerate. You're in so many different sectors. What do you think of that? What do you think of that question? How would you answer it?
First, I think great answer. Yeah, I agree with you. I think in the food sector, if we split it between, again, confectionery, and I'll give you an example. We have a hummus brand which we launched about a month ago called Smart Gourmet. It's a premium hummus. So can you find cheaper in the market? Yes, but again, no preservatives, healthy, etc. What it has to offer, that the clientele for that, I believe they won't go for something cheaper, particularly because they're looking for something healthier. Whereas in the confectionery space, bulk packaging, good value packs, but in both sense, quality will play a key, right? So even for the cheaper stuff, people now are more aware. I'll just give another example. Take a look at, other than consumer goods, take a look at Gaia, right? When we went there, to have dinner, it was packed. And for a restaurant that's on the fine dining stage, and where you would think that people would cut down their costs, and people didn't. So people will pay money for premium, but again, it depends on what the product is. So if the product is if you're giving health benefits, a super high quality product and so on, people will pay that extra premium. If you're looking at confectionery, which is much more competitive, and premium is a big question mark on what really is premium. Are you buying your milk from New Zealand or from Europe? Or then in that sense, people are going to go for the value pack. That's my 2 cents.
So I'm curious, also at Gaia, Chef, I'm going to ask you a question. You have different types of products at your establishment. You've got very expensive dishes, and you've got, dishes that aren't as expensive. You've got wines that are very expensive. You've got things that are less expensive. Have you seen any difference in the per table spending at all at Gaia? I know it was packed, but I'm just curious.
Let me just make sure that I get this right, that it was packed with social distancing. It was like space roaming around. So it wasn't that packed. It wasn't like they were on top of each other. No.
For the record, yeah.
No, honestly, guys, I mean, it depends on the market, because people when they come to the Gaia, there's a certain clientele base. The clientele that comes to Gaia, we have an average of 500 to 600 per head spend. Has that tailed off? No, it hasn't tailed off. But do they come more often? No, they don't come more often, but they still come, because when you come to Gaia, it's an experience. It's not a necessity, it's a want. And when there's a want, you want to make sure you get that want. It's like we talked about how you message about what you're doing. In my sector, it should be natural. In certain sectors, you have to let people know what you're doing. In Gaia, people know what they're coming for in Gaia. Because Kareen is a different market segment as well. You go to Kareen, it's a different price point as well, because it's more of a neighborhood. It's more of a family. So the price point of Kareen is between the 200 to 250 to 300 per head. So I think people still go to where instead of me coming to Gaia and just having one salad and going, I won't come to Gaia. I'll go somewhere else, because you don't get the experience of Gaia for one salad. So the thing is, you're coming for that theater feel. You're coming for us to show you the play. So you to get the play, you have to spend that average spend. And it's not that we tell you to spend, it's experience of Gaia, because you want a good wine, you want a few things to try, and then you quickly build up to that level. Yes, you can spend 100 dirhams, but you come to Gaia, 100 dirhams doesn't give you that experience, and that's the fact. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. We're at that segment. But if you go to McDonald's, it's a different segment. You go there for more of the substance rather than the experience. You're going there because you're hungry. So that's, I mean, Gaia.
No, that's a really good point. We have another final question. Actually, I'm going to have to take this one. How does, and by the way, I didn't pay anyone to ask this question, but we really got someone to say, how does Koida compete with all the other almond milk brands in this market, and is price a key point this way? So I guess my answer or strategy is we try not to compete anywhere. We try, instead of competing, we try and carve out a niche. And so that isn't done necessarily at the marketing level, it's done at the product design level. So, you know, we have an organic almond milk. It's made from premium Italian almonds. It has no added sugar. And then on the marketing side, once we carve out our niche, the marketing's job is then go find that niche customer base and communicate to them as effectively as possible. So hopefully that answered your question. All right, guys, before we wrap it up, I thought I'd go around. If you were to give one piece of advice to a head of marketing in any company that, or someone viewing this webinar, 20-second clip, okay? What's your one piece of advice to that head of marketing? Olivia, I'm gonna start with you. What would you tell the marketing departments around the region to do right now?
I would just say to communicate to your existing customers. Take really good care of them.
Okay, cool. Izu, what's your piece of advice?
I mean, I would just say stay who you are, because who you are will show through. Don't try and contrive yourself or try and change yourself for the situation, because people are not silly. They'll read that you're trying to fool them. If you're already the person you are, you should stay who you are. And even, I mean, just keep your product at that level. I mean, I'm not gonna say change your decoration, change this, and try and fool people. Just be who you are always, and that's my advice to everybody. Just have a philosophy in how you do things and stick to it.
All right, I wouldn't expect anything less. Bilal?
My advice, a little bit different here. My advice is I've interviewed tens of marketing candidates to join or to head our marketing department the last 2 months, and one thing I say is pick up some new skills very quickly. The old days where you play one part in either the strategy or the content creation or the execution, those days are gone. Marketing budgets are slashed. I think people should learn. It's okay to learn how to do some graphic design or some photography, or do the dirty work yourself too. I think the days where you can do just one thing doesn't exist anymore. All
right, cool. Dins?
I mean, look, fundamentals will always kind of stay in place, but I think marketing is a very reactive tool as it stands. It's like, even if you look at the transformation going away from print media or TV ads to online and social media, it literally kind of happened in a very short time span, and we had to recreate ourselves for that. So, I mean, over here, if marketing is all about creativity, we always have to recreate ourselves. And this is just, I wouldn't say this is an obstacle. This is just another turning point in which we have to follow and look at how do we do things differently. And life, work, professionally, everything is always subject to change. Nothing should always stay the same. Life is constant, and that's what it is.
All right, cool. I'll round it off by saying, I'd say I agree with Izu. Keep it real. Feel free to even admit mistakes. I think consumers are a lot more forgiving nowadays if you just be honest with them about certain issues, stock outs or supply chain issues. Keep it very simple. We try and keep all of our marketing taglines or messaging less than 5 or 6 words, and go digital would be my final thing. Anyways, listen, everybody, thanks for participating in our 3rd round of Food Talks. We do have our last and final episode on June 21st at 2 o'clock, same time. It's called Making Stuff Work, and it's all about supply chain and ops. Very interesting topics. Thank you guys, everyone, for your time. Have a good day.